and welcome back to yet another community watch party for a Pantheon developer live stream. Woo, this is gonna be a good one for lots of reasons. First of all, this is my first stream as a married man. You might have noticed my ring. Get a little close up. There it is. I love this ring, and I love my wife. And it's I think this ring it just fits me perfectly in many ways. So that's exciting. So I've been actually kind of out of the loop for most of this month. This has been a crazy month. It's only been a month since we have been together, but a lot has happened on my end in that time. But it feels good to be back. I went on vacation, got married. The wedding was perfect. We went on vacation for about a week and a half. That was also perfect. And came back. And now we're back following Pantheon and getting caught up on that. Tonight, just as a FYI, in about 23 minutes when the devs come on, we're going to pop on over to their channel, and we are going to be watching the reveal of the HDRP project, which is something that they have been talking about for quite a while now and have been talking it up quite a bit as a significant milestone. So the fact that is done at least enough to be shown off properly, that's something to get excited about. Now I'm keeping my expectations in check, like any Pantheon fan should at this point. But I think this is one that we're going to want to pay extra close attention to. I think it's going to be very interesting if it does indeed make the game look as good as they say it will, because that's something that that Pantheon, to be honest, has struggled with for a while, is the keeping up with the lighting and the just the graphical fidelity of a lot of the other more modern games. Now, it's an MMO, so you can't compare like an MMO to like a single player game, because there's just a lot more characters on screen, a lot more going on. But it'll be interesting. Suffice to say, it'll be interesting to see the steps forward that they have taken in the graphics department, because it is true that content is more important, and I think they have shown that their priority is the actual gameplay. But I think it would be naive to say that that graphics don't matter, because they do in this day and age. And so if Pantheon can nail both of those things, then we'll really be onto something. So excited to see the progress in that department. But I want to hear from you guys. I want to see what has been up with you in the past month. Anybody else get married? I see K-Lock. I see Thewal, Faded Emperor, Goofy Warrior Guy, Scubs15, Berserk Banky. Welcome, guys. Good to see you. See some familiar faces. Scubs, it will start in 20 minutes. This is just the pre-show. This is where we just get together and kind of hang out, get caught up. Just chill. We can talk about anything. Oh yeah, New World. New World came out. That came out, I think, when I was on vacation, so I missed out on that, and I had been too focused on Pantheon, been building the library of Pantheon, which I'll talk about in a little bit. So I actually have not been paying much attention to New World. I've seen a little bit on like Twitter and stuff, been keeping an eye on it from a distance anyway. It seems like people are liking it though, which is good. What do you guys think? For those of you who played it, what are your first impressions so far? I'm just happy to see any MMO doing well. New World was never really quite my cup of tea, but you know, if it's an MMO and people are enjoying it and being reminded of the things that make MMOs fun, that's important. That should get any MMO fan excited. It seems to me, again, just from watching from a distance, it seems like people are leveling very quickly, which is a little disappointing. Again, I think that's an area that that Pantheon can really punch through and stick out in a good way, by making leveling more rewarding. But I don't know. But that, again, that's just my impression from a distance. So Big Bear says it kills 3080s and 90s. I heard that was an issue in like beta for a time, but that seems like that was there were actually that was just kind of like a few isolated cases, and they've since fixed that. I think that was one of those things that the news outlets kind of took and ran with. But I think, has anybody heard of that happening recently? Because I think that was just a little brief blip on the radar. Faded Emperor says it's not Pantheon, but it's a good time sink in the meantime. Healing is the clunkiest I've ever had, though. In what way? How is it clunky? Big Bear says he likes it a lot. Good. Bountycode says don't like PvP action combat, local trade boards, limited sword space. I like the graphics, nice world to explore. Yeah, that was that's kind of what turned me off to it originally, was the emphasis on PvP, and also, to be honest, even just the setting, just my own personal preference. Like, the setting seemed kind of weird to me, almost like the best way I could describe it is like historical fantasy, where it's obviously a fantasy game, but it's clearly heavily influenced by like real world history. And I don't know, it's not my thing when MMOs have like muskets and like conquistador stuff like that. It just kind of takes me out of it. I'm more of a fan of the like just classic high fantasy, you know, even more far removed from the real world. Oh yeah, I heard about the choppable trees. That is pretty cool. That is cool. The wooden motorcycles, yeah, that would be a big one. That would that would turn me off real fast. Tolkien fantasy, yeah, exactly. But again, you know, that's just a preferential thing. Like, again, I'm very glad that that it's out there and that people are liking it. We'll see how it'll be interesting to see how long that lasts. It seems like it's still pretty early, but it seems like this is kind of has more potential to stick around longer than a lot of the other MMOs that have come out in recent memory anyway. So we will see. So anyway, I briefly mentioned the Library of Pantheon, which is something that is at the forefront of my mind, and pretty much has been every day recently, because it's very much nearing completion. My to-do list is quite short and getting shorter literally by the day, which is awesome, and it's super exciting to be able to finally see a light at the end of the tunnel. For those of you who don't know, this has been a project that I've been working on for about the past 5 months. We started it in May, and it is an epic project, an absolutely epic project. With the goal of collecting as much information that is out there about Pantheon as possible. And we are darn near 100%. Of all the publicly available information about Pantheon. So we're talking about all the gameplay streams, all the video newsletters, all the roundtables, all the producers' letters, and the old newsletters, and developer interviews and press releases, and you name it. We have collected it and organized it and broken it down into bite-sized pieces, like these videos, you know, that they do here tonight. Great video, but an hour long, at least. Sometimes the gameplay video is 2-3 hours long. That's really hard for a lot of people to digest. So what we've been doing, we have been watching literally everything, breaking it down with timestamps for every time a developer has answered a question or talked in depth about a particular topic. We've timestamped it and we've marked it and labeled it, so and put it into this huge library so that anybody can go there, and you can browse. You can just freely browse and look around if you want. If you're just interested in what the most recent stream was, you can just go and get a quick synopsis of it, or just kind of pick out little bits and pieces. Or if you want to go back and maybe like you've only been following Pantheon for a few years or something, you want to go and see what happened before you started following Pantheon and get the history of it, the context of everything, you can go do that. Or if you want to search for a specific topic, like maybe you want to see everything they've ever said about the perception system, you can go in, you could type perception, and it will bring you to every single time that a developer has ever talked about the perception system. That's what we've been working on. I'm very excited about it because I think it's going to significantly raise the overall understanding of the community when it comes to Pantheon and its development process, and just could not be more proud of where it's at. It's finally coming together, and so you can expect fairly soon, I think, we'll be making an announcement of the day that it will be launching. Again, it's completely free. Anybody can come and use it. It is just and by the way, this is not just something that I alone have been doing. I've been collaborating with several other very knowledgeable, very organized Pantheon community members. Goofy Warrior Guy being one of them. He's in chat. Shout out GWG. And it's just been great. It's been an awesome process, and again, it's just something that we are doing because we very strongly believe that it will pay dividends in the long run for the Pantheon community as a whole. I think it is going to really empower everybody, really, and content creators. Whether you're a content creator now or maybe thinking about becoming a content creator, this will give you a lot more material to work with, make it so much easier to learn about all the different topics. Because again, like those of you know me, I've been following the game for like over 5 years now. And it's almost become like another job every day for the past 5 years, and I'm just now kind of getting a more holistic understanding of the of the game and the development, and that's just not reasonable to expect everybody to be able to do that. So the goal here is to make it super fast and super easy for anybody to become an expert on the game. So that's where we're at with that. Super exciting progress. It's really coming together really quickly, and I can't wait to show you all. I could talk about it for a long time, but the developer stream here is going to be starting in 10 minutes now. We have 10 minutes. I'm going to take a nice big drink of delicious water. as if you did not miss anything. You have not missed anything. This is the pre-show. We're just getting started. It's going to be again, 9 minutes now. The actual developer stream will be starting. Then that will be about an hour. And I'll probably do a little bit of like a recap / give my thoughts at the end. Probably not too long, but I'll give some thoughts at the end and then we'll wrap it up. But yes, this will regardless be posted on my YouTube channel probably tomorrow. Geeky1678 says, so a wiki? No. But that's a good question. A lot of people have asked that. I could see where, as I'm just describing it with my words, it might kind of sound like a wiki. But there's a key difference here with the library in that it's more like a chronology of everything that the developers have ever said. It's almost more like a timeline. Yeah, a wiki for video, kind of. So the thing with wikis, though, because we talked about, so like Pantheon does have a wiki. It has a Gamepedia wiki, and we had talked about just updating that, but and we will get around to that, by the way. But doing the library first is going to make that so much easier. And I think I would argue that the library is much more important, at least at this phase of the development, because so the library has everything the developers have ever said, which you typically don't find in wikis. The wiki will just have the most recent and the most updated and accurate information, which is good. But when you're dealing with a game that's in development like this, the problem with that is that things change. Like Pantheon has a Gamepedia wiki, but the vast majority of it is so outdated, and that causes a lot of confusion, and it's super labor intensive to constantly be tracking like what the wiki is saying about a particular topic, and then every time the developers say something new, you need to then go back to the wiki and add it or change something. And it just gets messy, okay? It gets messy because just the nature of game development is that things are changing. It's an iterative process. It's evolving as time goes on. And so with Pantheon, though, again, this is something very unique with a crowdfunded game development. It's a unique situation, and so I think it requires a unique solution, because especially since Pantheon has been in development for, well, it has been like over 7 years since it was originally announced. They've been talking about it for over 7 years, and that's a metric crap ton of information, okay? And, people might follow it for a time and then, go away and come back or whatever. And so that has led to just an enormous amount of misconceptions, because there's so much information that's out there. Everybody has a different perception of it based on what videos they've watched and when they watched, when they've been following the game, and just how much time they've been able to dedicate to it, and game design ideas that have changed since then. And it's just a mess. The information out there about the game is a mess. It's spread out all over the place, and there are very few people who actually understand what the heck is going on. And so the library is just trying to bring some order to that. And so it lays out not just what the most recent information is about a particular topic. It does that first, because that is the most important. And if you just want to go see what the most recent information is, again, like about the perception system, you can do that. But the key difference is that you can also go back in time and see everything that the developers have ever said about it, going all the way back to the beginning. And you can see how these designs have evolved over time. And that's really important. That's really important. Squirrel says, I have forgotten more than I should. It would be nice to have Bazgrim. Yeah, I think a lot of people are in that boat. Oh, are they? Oh, it's a little bit early. Their stream just went live, though. It says stream starting soon, so we're going to stand by. I got it up on my screen. I'm ready to pounce when we need to. Hey, Thorndeep, thanks for joining. I see Sparrow, Jothany. Hey guys, good to have you. Yeah, again, it's one of those things like because this is so unique. The library is so unique. To my knowledge, there really is nothing exactly like it out there. I've looked and I have not found anything like it. It's very unique. It's very powerful. And so it's hard for me to just describe it with words. And again, when it gets closer to actually launching it and opening it to the public, I will make a video on my YouTube channel to kind of explain what it is in more detail, actually show you and explain how to use it a little bit better. But yeah, I'm very confident. I've never been so sure about something that is going to seriously help the Pantheon community and help get people back on track and actually understanding where the game is at. Very exciting stuff. And again, this isn't something that we're just going to put out there and just leave it. Again, we have a team that is committed to sticking with it and continuing to, to expand it and evolve it. And, there's going to be very open lines of communication. We're going to be looking for your feedback, for the people who jump in there right away and start digging through it and using it. I can't, obviously nothing is perfect ever, especially when it's launched though. So we're going to be looking for your feedback on ways that we can make it even better. But it is in a very good place right now. We just have some formatting and some cleaning up to do to make it truly ready, but it's getting there very quickly. Hey, Azza, thanks. I see several people congratulating me on the marriage. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you. It's very exciting, good stuff. Hey, Nostalgia Gaming. I'm glad you could make it. You're just in time. The dev stream is going to be starting up here any minute now. Nope, you didn't. Nobody missed anything. You're early, in fact. Ziplocs, you just celebrated 9? Congratulations, that's awesome. Nostalgia says, what does the back end look like for the library? It's actually quite simple, and Goofy explained it pretty well. For the videos, we went through and time-stamped everything and labeled it, and so you're just going to be searching for those labels, and then it provides a link that you can jump directly to that part of the YouTube video. But anyway, that's all the time I got. We got to switch over here. We got to switch over to the VR stream.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the October 20 no, wait. What date is it? October 14th, 2021 live dev stream for Pantheon Rise of the Fallen. I am one of your hosts and one of your producers, Ben Dean. And with me, as always, is Chris Joppa Perkins, creative director, lead designer. How are you doing today, Chris?
Doing great. Excited to be
here. All right,
here.
let's see what we got.
Fantastic.
Let's shift my focus back.
Internet sorcery,
HDRP,
we also
baby.
have two other people with us today. We have lead programmer Kyle Olson and senior programmer Robert Crane. Hey, guys.
Hey.
Hey, guys.
So Ronik, before we get started, Ronik sends his regrets. He won't be able to make it today. He is out practicing his fishing skill.
Mhm.
So tonight, on tonight's show, we're going to talk about the HDRP or high definition render pipeline, and we're going to talk about the tools. We're going to talk about where we are, the whole project conversion. We've got the right people on the stream tonight to talk about that and to give us a little bit of insight as to what it is and how it's working and how it's shaping up. So before we begin, though, we just wanted to send a quick shout out to our current pledgers who have made Pantheon possible as of today, up until this date. So we wanted to send a quick thank you to all of you who have showed your support over the years. And we did want to also mention that if you are a Pantheon fan and if you do like what you see tonight or any other night, feel free to drop on by pantheonmmo.com and click on that pledge button. Lots of pledges available there for any budget, any kind of gamer. Check them out, see if there's anything there that catches your fancy. So without further ado, we will turn things over to you, Chris. Let's talk about the high def render pipeline.
I got my Pantheon shirt on just for this occasion.
Speaking of catching
Don't let me
someone's
down.
fancy, this stream is one I've been excited about for a very long time. And if you've been following our development, you know that we've been mentioning this in our recent newsletters, that this is a very significant milestone for us. So we're super excited to dive in, super excited to go over everything and start setting the stage for this new era that we've entered into.
Oh yeah, we've got the
for those of you that
excited
don't know,
dripping
the
game.
HDRP pipeline stands for the high definition render pipeline that we're going to be kind of breaking down tonight and explaining what that means and how it benefits the game, how it benefits the performance of the game, really taking just about everything to the next level when it comes to our terrain tech and really just our streaming tech in general. We'll get into more details on that shortly. But in the most simplest terms, what this means is we finally reached the point where we are able to start transitioning our world away from the gray box development that we've been in for some time now and actually move into real terrain. And it's a very significant time. But what's exciting about tonight is breaking down more than just that specifically, but also all of the additional gains that we've been able to make, what it means for performance, what it means for future proofing, and all of the bells and whistles that come with that. So this is a part one of a two-part series on our HDRP pipeline and the conversion process. This stream is focused more so on kind of the tech and the tools that have been developed and that we're utilizing. There will be some nice visuals that we incorporate in tonight as well to demonstrate those things, to show progress, and to leave a good taste of things to come. And then our part two series will be focused on the beautification and, looking at more of kind of the product of everything from a more of a finished kind of release ready state.
Make sure you got your resolutions turned up as high as you can.
And again, couldn't be more excited. Before we dive into
welcome to those of you who just showed up.
I do want to
timing.
Again kind of introduce Kyle and Rob. We've had them on before in different ways. I know their voice has been out there before, but just got to take my proverbial hat off to these two gentlemen. They are absolutely phenomenal programmers. They are incredible to work with, extremely supportive, communicative, passionate about what we're doing. And I'm humbled by just the amount of effort and time and sincere devotion that these two have to the project and everything that's gone into what they've done. So I think that'll speak for itself tonight as you see the fruit of a lot of their labor. So let's go ahead and dive in. I think we're going to start with kind of the fundamental architecture changes, and this is going to give an opportunity for you to kind of get your voices into the mix. But let's start there. And for those who don't know what architecture means, how might we kick things off by explaining what that is, how that's changed?
Yeah, so previously, we were relying on Unity's scene systems to house all of our zones for the most part, which meant that a designer opens up a scene, drags stuff in there, hits save, that goes to disk, and then we can load that entire scene. It's kind of a rigid process. You don't get a lot of control over that. I can't take Thrown Fast and load only the lowest quality LOD for the zone, let's say. So if I wanted to support a lower spec PC, it's not so easy to do that. Not to mention, it's just one big load request off of your disk. You can't customize or mix and match or share things between scenes as easily. You're sort of locked in with Unity's own technology there. If that makes sense.
Yeah, you can think of a scene like, what's a good analogy for a scene?
It's a bundle of data. It's an idea. All of the ideas that you want to fit into Thrown Fast sort of get bundled together and saved into one blob on the computer. And that's Unity calls that a scene file.
It's also very difficult to strip the difference between the client and the server. So we're getting a lot of server bloat when it come to our scene files because of the way it was organized. So we had to break away from that. Otherwise, it would have just ended up costing us too much with our servers.
By depending on Unity to do the build process around their own scenes, we don't get to control explicitly what gets included into, say, a client build and what gets included into a server. So we're dependent on Unity's own technology to do dependency calculation. So is this texture needed for this scene, or is this audio clip needed for this scene? We only can rely on Unity to say yes or no during the build process. We don't get any injection into that to say, no, actually, I don't want any textures included into the server specifically. So by ditching that paradigm and sort of inventing our own way of saving data to disk, we can skirt around that and just stream in our data and ignore Unity scene system altogether.
So let's
Squirrel MMO's asking if we're using Unity's Collaborate.
No, we were on SVN. We've since migrated most things over to Git now with this conversion.
Never even heard of Unity Collaborate. List off like some just a couple of like implications of that, because again, I'm kind of close to this work, working closely with you guys, and there's some things in there that I'm not even super familiar with in terms of the real nuts and bolts. So like, what are some simple, clear implications of these changes we've made?
Well, one of them would be load screens. So if you hit a zone border before, because we have, say, like a 600 meg file on disk that consists of the zone that you need to go to, you have a hard zone line there. You have to load. We have to throw the load screen up, and it has to stay there until the entire scene is done loading. That includes all the visuals, audio, anything that's tied to it needs to be finished loading before we can remove the load screen. Now we can say, just stream in the collision, and when the collision's done, we can get rid of the load screen because we can keep streaming in the rest of the visuals. The game will simulate just fine while, say, this rock visual is still streaming off disk because we've got the collider all ready for it. That's sort of the fine-grained control that you get when you handle all of the streaming yourself. We can tag things and say, if the player HUD is done loading, if all of the ground collision is done loading, all the rocks, all that stuff, if that's all done loading, we're good to go and play. We can let the rest of it trickle in as necessary, or load the lowest LOD level off disk and then let the streaming system sort of pop in the higher quality stuff when it's done. We get a lot more fine-grained control over that. And that doesn't have a hard boundary at a zone border. It's just, it continues. You walk across the zone and the world is streaming around you as you move in real time, as opposed to getting these big chunk downloads or loads, I guess, not downloads, loads off of your hard drive.
We're far more in control of how we pack our data now, and which means that we can optimize things the way we know we need to get the most speed out of Pantheon, which we just didn't have that control before. We had to take the reins for ourselves.
So, okay. This is really exciting stuff. And we're starting to step into some of the really, really important implications of this. And I want to wait until we have some visuals to correspond to that. So let's put a pin in that track for a moment. I want to switch gears. I want to get some visuals in front of us. And I think this is a good opportunity to take a look at our
He knows what the people want.
What we're able to do with the terrain. We've talked a couple of times in the past about Houdini and leveraging and utilizing Houdini as a terrain solution, a biome generation solution, basically a procedural kind of suite of tools and different programs that allow us to do this kind of large scale generation of terrain and do it very quickly. We are actually using now a program called Gaia, and we made the decision to go with Gaia because, number one, in doing some research and due diligence, because any tool that you kind of devote yourself to, you need to make sure that it's going to accomplish what you need, but it's also going to do so within the resource constraints and the time frames that you're looking for. And what we found with Houdini is that obviously it's exceedingly capable of everything that we would want. But what we found with Gaia is that Gaia has extremely solid and sleek integration into Unity. There's a lot of kind of in-house expertise, especially shared between Kyle and Rob, regarding Gaia and what it's capable of. And it is also a procedural tool that allows us to do everything that we were wanting to do in Houdini, but just do it that much more quickly.
So Houdini
not
is
to mention
just
the
not a
fact
thing
that
anymore.
the developers of Gaia are incredible and great to work with, and so the support is there as well. Which, when you're trying to move things as quickly as we're moving things, you need good support. You need people who are responsive, ready to answer questions, and so on, so forth. So what you're going to be seeing today is the fruit of the integration of Gaia into all of these different tools and the pipeline that we've created. But I also want to make it clear that what you're also going to be seeing is the fruit of Rob and Kyle's work directly. And we've made that point before, that Unity is amazing, but a lot of what you need to move, the ground you need to move, the mountains you need to move, kind of using the expression here, to make an MMORPG is hard to encapsulate. I mean, these are the hardest, biggest games that you can make. And there are several things that we need that Unity does not have out of the box. And you're about to hear from the two people most responsible for bridging gaps and creating solutions that allow us and enable us to do the amazing things that you're going to be seeing today from them directly. So I want to kick it over to you, Rob. I'd like to start with the kind of the terrain shaping, and want to give it to you to intro this video, and then we'll take a look.
Cool. All right, thanks. Yes, I'd also like just to shout out to Adam at Procedural Worlds and the entire team there. They've been fantastic for us. They've supported us, and any questions we had, they were able to help and deliver straight away. So thank you very much to them, and it is definitely a much better fit for us. So the first video that we're going to show that we'll kick off in a second, I apologize, it's programmer art, you will see that, but it's going to show you how quickly we can convert what you guys are used to, which is like the grey box scenes, into something that's into Unity terrain that we can now sculpt and turn into something much more high fidelity. So if we want to kick off that first video, that'd be great.
Wow, we get a real
Hello,
everything.
and welcome to this video about terrain creation in Pantheon. I'm Robert Crane, Senior Programmer
get
and
elevator
Lead Tools
music
Programmer
too?
at Visionary Realms. When Kyle and I took on terrain streaming, we knew we needed a robust set of tools that could accelerate building worlds. So while Kyle got to work on the engine side, I busied myself writing terrain tools and pipelines to get him the data he needed. I knew our starting place was the grey box zones, which most of you have seen by now, and quickly we needed to transform them into something close to a final look. So let me show you how we did this. Here is a quick balloon mountain I put together earlier. It is just made up out of a series of standard Unity capsules, and we'll use this just for our demo. Building up a zone with primitives like this allows us to play test the zone early and iterate quickly, moving and scaling until everything feels correct. Here we are in game mode, where I place down a test first-person player allowing me to check the zone. Big balloon mountain, I like it. The next step is to turn our primitive shapes into Unity terrain so we can shape it in more detail. Still really blobby, but ready for the next step. Let's now run a smooth pass over the terrain. Nice, looking like a mountain now, but we're not done yet. The next step is to run a distort pass on it to stop it looking like melted ice cream. It really just needs to look like it is 1,000 years old, so let's weather it with some erosion. Great! Lastly, we should run Gaia on it to apply a biome. Let's jump in game again and take another look.
Yeah, Goofy, it is good that they're working with, that they actually have like an open dialogue with the creators of the tools. The same with Unity. Like I know they have a good relationship with the Unity team, which really helps.
We can always use the history view to roll back and forth through our changes. Let's try a different erode setting.
Especially with an open development like this, like the creators of these tools want Pantheon to do well. Like this is almost like an advertisement for them, you know?
That's quite nice.
Like they have invested interest. Like, and
the
I know
artists can also tweak the individual values on a modifier to tune the look the way they want.
There aren't really any MMOs of this scale that are using Unity, and I know Unity really wants to expand into that space, so they particularly are really interested in what Pantheon's doing, which is just good for everybody that's involved.
Now I know what you're thinking. Rob, what about canyons? All I did here was clone the balloon mountain, rotate it, and scale it down. So let's use the add clay option on the first mountain, and the remove clay option on the second mountain. Now we do the same steps as we did before. We'll run a smooth pass, a distort pass, and then follow up with erosion. Finally, we'll texture it again. Great! I think it needs some water. Awesome! Let's jump in and have a closer look.
Well, there you have it.
Wish I had a fishing rod. Nice day for fishing, ain't it? If we were to take that one mountain and duplicate it a few times like I've done here, we can quickly prototype a mountain range. Just add a little more detail here and there. Give it the old texture bake and boom, let's go have a look. And there you go. Obviously this is just a texture pass, the full biome has trees, grass and everything else visually.
Yeah, that's pretty
In a
pretty
future
dang
video,
fast
we'll go
though.
into depth on what goes into making a full biome from start to finish. I hope you'll join us for that, and thanks for watching and helping support the development of Pantheon.
Nice job, Rob.
Fantastic. The real point there and the real takeaway of a video like that is to demonstrate how quickly now we're able to iterate and build out terrains in terms of the topology, the shapes, building in interesting POIs, interesting silhouettes. It's absolutely phenomenal. And one of the reasons I'm most excited about it is because I'm one of the fortunate few on the team who is able to go in and do a lot of work in our area. As I said before, I'm not an artist in the sense that I don't make the props and make the different trees and rocks and whatnot, but I like building with Legos essentially. So I'm good at putting Legos together, and I get to do a lot of scene work, and I've been able to see firsthand how quickly you can take a zone like Thrown Fast, like Aventur's Pass, Wild's End, Eastern Plains, Silent Plains, and go from the very sharp kind of angular gray box and use that as the fundamental kind of nature and layout of the terrain that we want to achieve. But then you can see how quickly, in a matter of clicks, that you now have realistic looking terrain that we're then able to, in that context and setting, place a player in, run around, check scale, check distances. We just, the support that Kyle's gotten in place to bring our actual like in-game player character with the animations and things like climbing and the various things that we are capable of in game as a player into our Unity scenes to be able to test these things in real time. The iteration, the turnaround time is by orders of magnitude increased because of these tools. And we're going to see some really, really important and cool before and after shots a little bit later in the stream to really show off kind of the implications here. But could not be more excited.
He said excited
of what it means for the speed with which we can start bringing this world online visually.
Really, it speaks to not only this tech stream, but the past few that we've had, past, I don't know, a year and a half or so. They've all been focused on enabling designers, be it ability systems that are graph controlled by designers, or letting a designer get in here and paint and sculpt and place objects in the world without worrying about the performance implications and does it go in this tile or any of that kind of connecting zones together with invisible, it's just, you don't think about it anymore. You load the whole continent, you drop stuff on it, and you go.
And you go. Yep, that's right.
Yeah. The other thing I was going to mention was that that video was not sped up at all. The time that it took to erode or distort or do any of those things, you actually saw it in real time. So that's what Chris is working with when he's working on his zones, is that speed.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And that's
ask it. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. No, you're good. You good?
I was just going to ask a question coming from chat. Just in terms of the erode, when it's performed, is it different every time, or are you always going to get kind of the same erosion?
The erode settings are fully tweakable, but it's all based on a seed, so a seed value. So if that seed value doesn't change, you would get the same value, but usually it's a randomized seed to get different results.
But just to clarify that a little bit further, like Rob said, all of the settings are tweakable. So with the designer coming in and looking at the zone, they're taking into account, what's the age of the zone, what's the climate here, what's the biome supposed to be, and so are we looking at thousands of years of erosion? Are we looking at relatively short amount of time? So it is randomly seeded, but it also has enough parameters where we can shape it to fit the area that we're looking at.
And nor does that output the final thing that we have either. So this is a rapid iteration tool, but it doesn't remove the fact that a designer can still get in there and do stuff by hand.
Yeah, that's that's one of the key differences between a Houdini pipeline and our pipeline is with Houdini, we're dependent completely on the full rendering path. So even if it's the smallest little tweak that you wanted to make, we would have to send the entirety of everything back through the full process to get a new output. Whereas now it is as agile as it could possibly be. You can bake everything out, you can build everything out, you leverage the procedural tools and things like we just saw, but then an artist, a world builder can go in and make those small hand adjustments as needed. And that's been our goal from the beginning, because we don't want, procedurally generated POIs. We want our POIs to be handcrafted. We want them to be set up in specific ways for specific purposes. And this affords us the full freedom and support to do that.
I really kind of want to underscore your point there, because there are games out there that do completely procedural generated universes, and it works in some situations. But I challenge you to find a completely procedurally generated world or even zone that is as realistic or as engaging as a handmade one. It's you still want handmade in the end. Procedure stuff works for certain respects, but yeah, it's nice to have that handmade touch as well. We do. I don't want to take all the time with these questions, but since we were speaking about Houdini as well, a question did pop up that was asking if the topography of King's Reach map, that that we put out a while ago, has that changed with a switch over to our current tools and pipeline?
Nope. And in a little bit later in the stream, I'll put some visuals to that. Nope.
Perfect.
Yeah, you'll see some before and afters, right?
Yep. Cool. I think we have another video from Rob. So we've looked at the terrain sculpting and how quickly we can. I mean, I gotta just say too, the fact that you can take, he was using, like you said, this programmer already using cylinders in these or capsules in these primitive shapes, but we can do anything. We can literally take anything, any object, any topography, any geometry we want, complex, simple, whatever it is, and do exactly that. We can dip it into the terrain and we can build clay around it, or we can take clay out based on the contour of that. And so the degree of freedom and creativity that it provides us in getting our terrain in shape quickly to kind of capture what we're looking for, it's fantastic. It's really exciting. So I will kick it back to you, Rob, and we can take a look at this next video.
All right, thanks, Chris. Well, the second video that I put together is to do with our cave systems. And it's not the only way that we are creating caves, but it's certainly a step in the right direction of being able to get the tools in place for designers to rapidly iterate on caves and dungeons, because they play a huge part in Pantheon. To get the tools into their hands so we can iterate very quickly and get gameplay elements in and test them just as quick as we can. So let's play the second video and you'll get an idea. Hello again, Robert Crane here. Let's talk about caves. Every good RPG has lots of caves, but getting a good structure for caves can sometimes be very time consuming. Our design team needs to be able to quickly mock up a cave design to see if it will fit their needs. So I knew I had to find a solution that allowed them to try different designs without having long waits. Here is one approach on how we design our caves. First, we start off with a room like this. Now, I'm not an artist, so forgive my low polygon room. It will serve the purpose of this demonstration, but it certainly doesn't have to be this generic. Now here comes the magic. If we place a couple of them together like so, and then run the cave cutter process on them, you can see that they now join each other.
I love caves.
So through a process of duplicating, moving, rotating, scaling rooms, we can put together very complex cave systems. Once the cave design is locked down, artists can come in and set dress the caves to finish the look. The only thing left for this test cave is a way in. Let's place another cave piece in the front leading to outside. And it doesn't have to just be one type of mesh. Here's a rock. All we need to do is reverse the mesh, turn it into a room. Putting two of these rocks together and then running the cave cutter will turn it into one big room. If we stick it into one of our walls and carve the caves again, it now becomes part of the cave.
Yeah, I think so. Reasonable. That sounds right. So there's a lot of verticality. You know, like with those lips there where it kind of like dips down. I know he's moving fast, but...
Once we save this and it goes through our automated build pipeline, we end up with this.
It's funny.
Add a little rock
it's
entrance
East
to
Common
the
Lands.
front and we have a nice little cave.
But yeah, like you see that lip when you first like walk in, like... initially I was like, oh, they'll have to smooth that out, but it's like, well, not really, because you can just climb it.
And that's one way how caves are built in Pantheon. Thanks again for watching. Onward and upward.
Yeah, exactly. Huh.
Awesome. So the point there again was to showcase some of what this conversion has allowed us to create, put together for the sake of expediting world creation tools. I think Kyle said it really well. You know, the more we can, as we've said so many times over, everything we do is steeped in meaning and purpose when it comes to the game, meaning the lore of the world, the who, what, where, when, why, the story that drives everything, so that we're always having a truly immersive world and a truly immersive experience in mind. And so with the lore, with the concept art that is kind of steeped in and birthed out of the lore, we are building these tools to enable world builders and designers to harness the ability to generate these areas and create these places extremely quickly. And what's so beautiful about this is, rewind, a year, certainly 2 years ago or so, the turnaround time that it took for us to place something in the game and then actually get into that area in a client with a character and play it and experience it was sometimes days. Whereas now, all that we need to actually test and prove out and do the kind of iterations you do when you're creating a game, we're able to do it now within Unity, with our own code kind of being funneled into the editor and our player character. And so all of the play testing to spot check and check scale and check distances and check density and everything else we are able to do as we're working on these areas. So it's a huge showcase, and again, my hat's off to Rob specifically for the incredible work that he's done to get these tools where they're at and as quickly and as robust as they are. I mean, it's a really great thing. So
robust. There's another Japa word.
Before we move on, just really quickly in that vein, Neos 245 is asking if the quickness that we now have with these tools, does that change the timeline, the projected timeline, or was this always sort of part of the plan?
I think that we have surpassed our expectations on how quickly we're able to develop what we need to develop with these tools. It's no secret that we have a lot of world to build. And the quicker we can do that, the quicker we can get to the finish line. So I'm not going to make any, kind of direct statements on what this does as far as shaving timelines, except to say that it has exceeded our expectation substantially in terms of how quickly we can move our world. So it's a big deal. Any other quick questions on this front?
If they are, they haven't been fed to me, but we'll just blame Kilson. No, actually, he has a couple. Are there plans to come up with a tool to create NPC/character assets quickly as well?
Not through the same kind of methods. They're very different things, and we do have some plans, I guess you could say, in how we can certain things we can do to expedite some of that process. But it's not going to be like this. There's not a tool that allows you to. Now, once we have an NPC or just a character model that we like, for example, there's a lot we can do to create significant and meaningful variations in that. And those things can certainly be expedited and, tooled out in a way that helps us build those out further. But when it comes to, generating the kind of source model for these things, you're not going to see a tool yet that can do that, or at least that we would be capable of utilizing.
That's a difficult problem, even for skilled artists. Organic modeling and humanoid style modeling, or even any kind of skinned mesh rigging, animating, it's not something that a designer can really effectively do the same.
Or you wouldn't want
it, yeah.
A designer trying to do something like that. Yeah. Any other questions on that front?
Let's keep moving on.
Okay, so now we're going to kind of jump back to a little bit of what Kyle was discussing in the beginning and take a look at the performance improvements and kind of basically the staging of what the architecture does for us in terms of our streaming technology. So we've heard us talk about terrain streaming. I do want to make the point, and Kyle, you can drive this home, but it's not just terrain streaming or world streaming. This is actually a holistic streaming technology. So whether we're talking about terrain, whether we're talking about trees, rocks, you name it, this streaming tech is kind of fundamental and touches all of those things. So I'm excited. We're going to try something a little different this time. Kyle's going to be live streaming here. We did some pre-recorded videos with Rob.
Oh, snap.
Kyle, I think it's time for you to...
Yeah, swap me in. This part's going to get pretty technical, potentially. So this is in the editor, consuming some of the built data that CP and Tim have been working on. This is thrown fast, converted over as we have it now. Not all the assets have been converted to HDRP yet, so we're only working with what we have so far and would have been scattered in the tools, right? Let's see here. So I'm going to do my best to just give a sort of overview of how this tech works to get you in the mindset to understand where some of the other stuff comes in. So this is game view on the right.
Okay.
Sort of an editor scene.
Put your thinking caps on.
Zoom out. And you can see how much of the world we're actually pulling in around a player. It's quite substantial. I'm going to overlay some gizmos. That little gizmo in the very center there, the little arrows, that's where our player is. You can see the streamer has some information that it gives us, these yellow tiles. Well, actually, let me zoom out even more. So this is all of a continent. This is King's Reach here. The empty cells out here are not loaded cells. And as you move closer and closer to the player, you'll see these blue cells and some yellow cells and some green cells. And these are level of detail of that individual cell. So green indicates the highest quality. That's what we're standing on here. And it'll be whatever you're standing on in the closest 3 tiles will be as high quality as we can deliver to you. So the streaming tech is sort of, it's a level of detail and streamer combined into one sort of thing. It was one of the biggest CPU drains that we had previously, was just leveraging Unity's own level of detail systems. In Fairtale, it took almost 6 milliseconds of CPU time just to calculate every frame what this tree's quality should be, for example. There was just so many objects that we're trying to push through it that it falls apart. So one of the big wins we get here is this is all built on Unity's newer tech, the job system and burst compiler, the entire thing. So we get amazing performance from the streaming, and for almost free, we get level of detail added in a way that you couldn't really do even before, because we can just stream the level of detail required off of disk. So if I look for the same, does that make sense so far?
It sounded good to me.
Makes sense
Okay.
to me.
So I'm going to try and get sort of a similar-ish view from the in-game camera over here. Zoom out a little bit in the editor. And if I move, you can see the colors change. As the player camera walks across the world, you can see the quality would change in this tile here, for example. This is changing from the highest quality to level of detail 1 as I move left and right. Right, so now we're on level of detail 1. Get a little bit closer to this tile. Now we're on level of detail 0. You can see the triangle counts for log 0 over 100,000 triangles. As we move away, we can drop those down to about 5,000 to 6,000 triangles. So that's the idea. That's just the individual terrain tile, but every single object that exists on these tiles can optionally have our custom level of detail component added to them and get callbacks about, should I be the highest quality right now? Should I be the lowest, or should I unload myself? We sort of hand that off to the tech, and it just figures it out. So we've completely eliminated Unity's level of detail system and implemented sort of our own scene technology at the same time. It's a double win there. All right, so the next big thing, this is only scratching the surface, I should say. So this is going to get even more technical.
All right, everybody still
a
here?
game has sort of two distinct parts generally. It's not always thought of this way, depending on how big of a game you're making. But especially in a networking game, you're going to want to think about this at some point. You've got the simulation and you've got the rendering. And generally in Unity, those two things are very tightly coupled together, meaning that you've got, say, like a game object here, and it's got a renderer, and it's got a mesh, and maybe it's got a collider. So that's coupling dependencies there. A collider is part of a simulation. You can't see a collider. It's only necessary to make the player smash into it. The other part of that is the rendering, which is, say, the mesh renderer, the textures, all of that kind of stuff. What we do now in our build process is split those explicitly. So our server, for example, if I can find, here's a tile. On our server, we only have to couple data that's required for the simulation to work. That was what I was getting at before with the build stripping, or Rob mentioned, and then we expanded on a bit. With the build stripping is we can now explicitly say, I want these assets included with the server, and these assets are specifically collision, navigation, that kind of stuff. And I want to exclude everything else from the server. Or for the client, I want to include all the collision and navigation, but I also want to include all of the rendering data as well. And because it's decoupled like that, one second. Where's my gizmo? I guess I'll just do it here. I can raise this to show an example. I just lifted the simulation part of the game 500 units into the air to give you an example. This is sort of the trace outline of everything necessary to make the game run without rendering, right? Below it, if I look down below, you still see the terrain down there. Turn the gizmos off. The terrain's still there, visually rendering, but I would fall through it now if I were to be standing on that spot with a player. The importance of that is we can tag just the collision here as necessary to load. And if we get to a situation where we're in a green zone, if I go back to the top view, say a player is in this spot right here, but we haven't finished loading the collision, the necessary data to simulate this cell properly, we can dynamically just splash up a load screen and say, hang on, you're not ready to actually play in this part yet. Now, that normally doesn't matter because you're just walking around the world naturally. So if a blue cell pops up, we're streaming in the collision already, and it's not necessary. It's not required for gameplay when it's on a blue cell.
I was going to say,
it is actually required for gameplay on a yellow cell because
I wonder how that works
an
with
NPC might
teleporting.
need to navigate around on it. So if somehow you get, say, summoned across the world, or you jump in a portal, and all of a sudden the streamer detects that you have teleported from the top right area of Thronefast down into southern AVP or the Silent Plains or something way down here, it will recognize that, oh my god, a whole bunch of required for gameplay stuff just got requested off disk, and I don't have any of it yet. I need to show a load screen for a second. So normal case to case, just walking around the world naturally, you'd see no load screens ever because things get buffered in a bubble around you before they're really necessary. But in the extreme case of a big teleport, you will see that load screen.
Yeah, on that point, I was just going to say that it means that also that if you're not up to going to Silent Plains or one of those other zones yet, there's no reason why you should need to download that at the start. So this will all be streamed when you need it at that time, and which means it's much smaller patch sizes, much smaller executables, and just get fed the data when you need it.
Yep. And it also means that we can update a rock, which is not necessary for gameplay, right? The visual aspect of a rock can be updated separately from the simulation aspect of a rock. And we can deliver you that updated mesh without having to compromise the integrity of the simulation of the game.
So I think this is a good opportunity to also make the kind of clarify the fact that what this allows us to do now is move away from a zoned world, a fully zoned world. And in fact, that is what we are doing. We will still have zone lines most likely for dedicated dungeons. Because there's a few reasons for that, but in wanting Pantheon to be as immersive as possible, and to really capture that feeling of freedom and adventure, and zone worlds just don't support that. When I can't run over that mountain and go wherever that's going to take me, I don't really feel like I'm fully immersed in an adventure and have a as full of possible of freedom. So whether it's running across King's Reach, as you see here, over mountain peaks, wherever you want to go, or whether it's running towards the ocean and just swimming out as far as you can go, the overland world will be seamless, and cannot express how excited we are about that.
Yep, full continent. There's no fundamental reason that this needs to be the size that it is. We chose this because it encapsulated all of King's Reach and gave us ample room to expand around the borders as well. It was arbitrary. We can expand this to be multiple continents, or we're not going to, but the idea is the tech is not limited in world scale. It streams off disk on demand.
And because of each tile has got its own LOD levels, it means that not that we've done it yet, but we're very close to rendering what you've seen in Fairthal before, possibly in every tile. So the density of the rendering that we'll be able to get away with is going to be that much higher with our new system than we could ever possibly do before.
One of the... one sec, let me pull... I'll just grab this guy again, actually. So going back to the idea of decoupling visuals from the simulation again, well, actually a step back. So why is Unity generally considered bad for large open worlds? It's because game objects are sort of heavy. One of the reasons that we needed to address this tech ourselves is because we wanted to, wherever possible, avoid having game objects. And that comes down to how we're saving our data on disk in that tile format. This is an example of whatever tile 829 is. I don't actually know. This is all of the assets that exist on that tile. So there's some cave meshes. Here's a sapling tree, a medium tree. There's 63 instances of this one, 69 instances of this one. We're saving data in a way that is GPU friendly. So if I expand one of these out, this is a 4x4 matrix of the position, rotation, and scale that makes up this one instance of this sapling. And what we're trying to do is keep all of our data in a GPU-friendly format and just upload that directly. We can just indirectly render everything as necessary. Because we've decoupled visuals from collision, we don't have a dependency on how we render an object. We can just skirt around the idea of even using game objects for 80 to 90% of the things that we render in a scene, just rendering them and loading it straight off disk linearly. No data transformations have to happen. Upload directly to the GPU and it renders. That's going to be humongous for performance in an open world game. And it's something that Unity lacks sorely.
Before anyone asks too, that is the lowest LOD level you're seeing there of the trees. We just render everything in low LOD in Unity Editor just for speed reasons.
What you're seeing here is actually what designers would work with. This is the sculptable terrain. You can place objects in here. This is the tools, right? And then this goes through a bake process and outputs these kinds of scriptable objects for us that contains all of the necessary data to render a given tile.
Yes, that was one of the longest things that we had to do, is create a build pipeline that can ingest anything that you put into a Unity scene and split it up into these tiles and LOD levels and feed that data to a streamable source that then Kyle's engine can take and render at high speed.
Exactly. We're doing all the slowness over in the tools and then letting the build pipeline output highly optimized assets for us to consume in a streamable way.
I think this is going to.
That's about all I got for the streaming.
It's going to surprise a lot of people. He talks about like Unity kind of has a bad rap for.
I think that was a great explanation.
Open world games like this, and I think it's going to surprise a lot of people.
But I love that we got to.
A lot of people think that there's no way that an MMO can be made with Unity, but
thanks. I hope we can do more live stuff. I think it's a little more engaging. If you get an idea in your head, you can just jump over to it really quick.
Yeah, that was cool. That was cool.
Agreed.
So before we wrap things up, I think we have, instead of patch notes, I think we have tech notes this week, unless I'm mistaken.
Yep. So they are still patch notes, but this is coming direct from our programmers. Some of the additional things they've been working on and have developed and gotten in that they didn't cover during their presentation earlier. So take it away, guys.
Yeah, so I don't know if you noticed in the live stream, but we've moved away from the 2019 or the LTS release stream of Unity altogether. We're on the latest cutting edge 2021 beta. We're actually 2 betas behind now, but we're on the latest and greatest Unity edition now for all the HDRP improvements and stuff like that. But one of the big things that we've implemented is just straight up code stripping. So any server specific code is now completely removed and decoupled from the client. It gives us a nice, clean separation between what is authoritative, required for simulation stuff, and client UI rendering, just garbage, things like that. But we've also switched the client to compiling to IL2CPP, which involved some plugin purging and that kind of stuff. But we're at a nice, clean slate. So all of our client code now compiles directly to C++ and gets obfuscated in the process. So it's going to be much, much harder to decompile any of the builds. And even if you can decompile it, again, we've got the code stripping in. So a lot of the more sensitive server-specific formulas and combat methods that run server only are just completely removed from the client. So less bloat there. Moving to HDRP, we got a humongous I don't even know how to quantify this really, but we've switched all of our shader usage to native HDRP lit, unlit, tree rendering, that kind of stuff. We're using more of Unity's native shaders as a base. Previously, we had, I want to say, 280 unique shaders plus instance variants and things like that, compiled definition variants that get generated from the build process. There were thousands of shaders used in different areas of the game. And that's been boiled down to, I don't know, like 7 or 8 now. So huge wins there in terms of memory usage. We don't have to load all those up into the GPU. We don't got to build and strip variants of them at compile time, all that stuff.
It's all the compatibility breaking issues that we had.
Oh, God, yeah. So the only way that you could get the built-in renderer previously looking great and performing well was a lot of custom stuff. And that's sort of what Rob is getting at there, is that ties you to certain editions of Unity that support features or things that you might be dependent on. And that was a huge problem for us. It was a struggle to update Unity at all. And now we're totally comfortable on the latest bleeding edge of Unity. We're not depending on how something was custom integrated or any kind of tech like that. It's a lot more native, just out of the box support for certain tools now. So, okay. Could you actually flip back to my screen really quick? One of the things that we're leveraging now is this dedicated server build target in the latest beta. In addition to all of the custom build stuff that we can now do for our servers and our zones, because we control the entire pipeline, Unity also implemented this build target called dedicated server in the latest beta, which adds to their side, like the Unity's build side of build stripping. So with the changes to how we pack our zones and this new dedicated server build target, our zones in some cases are using 5 or 6 times less memory than they were before, which means we can pack more on a single box, support more players, all of that good stuff. That's a massive win that was sort of out of the blue. I wasn't actually following that, and we got the upgrade and it all just kind of worked and it was great. That's a new thing that we're also using there. So also up here, we're leveraging all of their play mode optimizations now. So all of our projects, be it the game assets, the world terrain, or this main code project that consumes all the built assets, all have full interplay mode options enabled, meaning that we don't have to do a domain reload and we don't have to do a scene reload when you hit play. That means even on Joppa's lower spec PC than I have, he can interplay mode in that massive terrain scene in a matter of seconds, whereas
like a second or two.
Yeah, it's fast, right? So compare that to, say, AVP in the old style. You would hit play, and depending on your computer power, you could be sitting there for 30 seconds to a minute just waiting for the game to start. That kind of iteration time is it's just, it breaks your concentration every single time. So that's completely gone now.
It used to take, sometimes used to take 3 minutes just to load the scene in the start, not even pressing play yet, just
like
getting
booting
the scene
Unity
loaded.
up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't sound like a lot of time, but when you start adding that up through the course of a day, through the course of a week, a month, all of the seconds and minutes that you spend literally just waiting for something to load, something to render, something to export, something to build, it really, really adds up. And the amount of efficiency that we've gained through getting those seconds and minutes back is pretty astounding.
Not to mention just the frustration level that it adds to as well, just having to wait for things. Just alleviates that frustration now.
You can finally patch those holes in your wall, Rob, not keep adding to them, yeah.
I'll find another reason.
So yeah, there's been a lot of smaller but still extremely significant changes that we've been able to make due to the architecture changes.
Well, Chris, thank you so much for that, Kyle. We are getting short on time, but we do have one more goodie for you before we go. Chris, I think we have some before and afters, don't we?
Yeah, so like I said at the beginning, this is our part 1 of a 2-part series. Today, we've focused, obviously, very heavily on the tech, on the tools, but, you know, all of this, we're making a game here, and we're making a game world that we want to be immersive and beautiful. And the great thing about the HDRP conversion is that not only have we been able to incorporate all of these amazing tools, but there's a lot that comes with HDRP in terms of just the visual fidelity and no more gray box. That is just a very, very significant milestone for us, and I know that it is as meaningful to so many of you as it is to us to see us, reach that stage. So what we want to end on today as kind of a little bit of a teaser for what we're going to kind of douse you in part 2 is some early kind of before and after visuals of some of our zones in their gray box state, which most of you have seen, and now in their HDRP state. Utilizing these terrain tools and just with a little dusting of some of the HDRP goodness. By no means is this fully dialed in. So when we talk about lighting, when we talk about the atmospheric effects and, the different, just all the little bells and whistles, part 2. That's part 2. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start. We're going to show a series of before shots. We'll go ahead and bring up the first shot now. I know that everyone is really sad to see this go.
Like we need some violin music.
I did say, I think it was in the VIP community, our testers, but I did say, enjoy it while it lasts. Like there is something about moving away from this that will become more and more nostalgic someday. But all right, now let's see HDRP. Same shot.
Wow.
Cycle kind of back and forth to see.
Oh yeah. Dude, yeah, that did not look like
this is one section of Avendir's Pass, and you can see what we've said from the beginning, that the gray box geometry is not placeholder. I mean, it is placeholder, but it's not throwaway. It has been establishing the silhouette and the topology, and it's been amazing utilizing these tools because it's allowed us, especially in these zones that have been developed and we've built content and gameplay, thoroughly within, that we can snugly kind of convert this terrain and even, do some additional shaping on it without losing any of that layout information. All right, let's go to the next shot. So this is looking now towards Thronefast. Still in Avendir's Pass, but looking back towards Thronefast, and now we'll see it in HDRP. And you can see there, a straight shot in through the gate into the city, and just really wanting to kind of, drive home the fact that as a seamless world now,
some trees will go a long way
into and onto the very city of Thronefast itself, and getting a little taste of our kind of earlier morning time of day. That's something we'll talk about in more detail in part 2. All of the time of day goodness that we get with HDRP and how much more easily now we'll be able to move towards setting up a true day-night system.
The sky looks a little different,
all right,
too.
Let's go next shot. This was actually, some of you may have seen this. This is what we used for our promo shot, but
yeah.
Let's go ahead and move to shot 2.
I think that's in Avendir's Pass. That's my guess. Oh, look, a little tent on the island. That one lonely tree. Needs more trees. Looks good, though.
And then lastly, the final shot, we're going to circle all the way back to that question earlier on that was asked, have we maintained the actual layout of things? With this conversion, have we lost that layout? And this final before and after is an overland shot showing the entirety of Avendir's Pass and Thronefast seamlessly, loaded together. Let's go ahead and move to that shot. And this is in its gray box state. And now we'll show the HDRP.
And how long do you think it took you to go from grey box to that, Chris?
So I would say now, after having kind of gotten used to the workflow, this would probably take a day. for this entire area, both of these zones together, to get it to this stage. Could do it in a day. And we will. I love this shot in HDRP because you can see some of the coastline in some of the areas. We've intentionally cut off a little bit around the side. Again, we're gonna douse you with this in part 2. But when you start really taking in the water and the interplay between the terrain and the water and the seamless nature now of the world, it's very exciting. And we'll leave you with this final shot, just a different vantage point. But this is one of the peaks inside of Avenger's Pass. You're looking out over Avenger's Pass into what used to be the zone of Throne Fast, which is now just that part of the continent, even seeing beyond that into the ocean.
It does look like the Golden Gate Bridge.
And the amazing thing is you could set off running from right here and run all the way out, maybe even hop in a ship and sail off into the distance as far as you would want to go. And when we say that Pantheon is going to be next level in its embrace and how deeply we're diving into creating a truly immersive adventure-based MMORPG experience, we mean it. And everything we're doing is for the purpose of making sure that this world supports that. So I know it's going to be hard to wait, but we do have a round 2 coming up, and we will look forward to that along with you.
Thanks, Chris. And thanks, Kyle, and thanks, Rob, for coming on tonight and showing everything and talking about HDRP, the pipeline, all of the tools. I think I can speak for the community here when they say we really appreciate it. Lots of cool stuff going on.
Yeah, no worries. It's always fun.
You're very welcome.
And just a reminder to all of you out there that Pantheon is made possible by your pledges. If you like what you've seen tonight and want to support the game and its developers, head on over to PantheonMMO.com, hit that pledge button. There's lots of different options for all different budgets and every type of gamer. And while you are there, you will notice today that there is now a Refer a Friend program available. There is a link right on that pledge button. You can also just go to pantheonmmo.com/RAF and read about the Refer a Friend program, where you will earn rewards as you recruit your friends to play Pantheon. Also, there are still investment opportunities if you are an accredited investor and would like to talk. Drop us a line at contact@visionaryrealms.com. I'd like to thank you all for coming out. Thank you all for your support. Have a great night.
See you soon.
WTF. And by that, I mean, well, that's fantastic. That's so fantastic. I am going to jump right over to their website to check out the referral program, because that is interesting. I know they had briefly mentioned that in the last roundtable, I think, but I was not expecting it to be available so soon. Here we are. Goofy's already got the link in chat. If you want to follow along with me, we're gonna go right over to pantheonmmo.com. Pledge. Have a friend interested in Pantheon. Earn rewards from our Refer a Friend program. I have thoughts on the stream, by the way, which I will get to, but I want to check this out first while we're here. Okay, Refer a Friend. Earn rewards by recruiting friends. What is the Pantheon Refer a Friend program? When you recruit a friend to play to Pantheon Rise of the Fallen and they pledge, you will earn some great rewards. Check the rewards table below to see what you can earn. How does it work? Whenever a new pledge or upgrade is made, a survey is sent up to a week later to the registered email address. In that survey, there is a question that asks if you were referred by anyone. All your referred friend needs to do is fill in the box with the email address you use for your Pantheon account, and that's it. Your account will be credited the appropriate rewards. Does it have to be a new pledge Or do upgrades count? Upgrades count. You can earn rewards by encouraging existing pledges to upgrade to a higher tier. Please note that only one upgrade referral can be made per account. Upgrading a single account multiple times will not net more referrals. Makes sense. Okay. Are rewards cumulative? Yes, the rewards listed below are cumulative. In addition to the reward for your current amount of referrals, you retain all of the rewards prior to it. Can I refer myself? No. The pledge or upgrade must be a different account than the referred. Duh. What can guilds do to pool their referrals? A guild reward system is in the works. It will be in addition to the personal refer a friend rewards. That means new pledges or upgrades can list an individual and a guild in their pledge, while the guild reward systems is still under construction to be implemented at a later date. Guilds can already start earning points by asking new guildmate pledges to list the guild name in the post-pledge survey they receive. More information on rewards and guild points will be provided when the guild program goes live. Previous guild incentives will be rolled into the system. Interesting. Okay, let's read on. Rewards. Number of referrals. We'll go one at a time here. Reward. 1 additional free month of game time and a refer a friend bronze nameplate badge. So for those of you that don't know, nameplate badges are just these little icons that can appear next to your name that hovers over your character in game. Just little icons that can be turned off if you don't like them. You don't want to see them. Number of referrals. 2. 1 additional free month of game time. Okay. 3rd referral. New title, Herald of Pantheon. Yeah, Goofy, I was thinking the same thing. He says, too bad it's not retroactive since I've already referred some people who have pledged. Yeah. But that's just how it goes. Kalok, I think you can only have 1 icon next to your name at a time. So like if, you know, they've used icons in the past for like pledge rewards and things like that. But my understanding is that you might have a pool of badges that you can choose from. But you can only have 1 of them displaying next to your name at a time. And I believe, again, that they have also discussed an option to disable them in the options if you want it to just look more clean. You don't have to see them if you don't want to. Again, that's as of last time they talked about it, that was the case. Okay, 4th referral, 1 beta buddy key, a code that allows a friend to join beta sessions. That's pretty cool. 5th referral, refer a friend, silver nameplate badge. Okay. 6th, 1 alpha buddy key. 7th, 1 additional free month of game time. 8th, 1 beta buddy key. Okay, because again, these are cumulative. 9th, you get another beta buddy key. And 10th, you get refer a friend gold nameplate badge and new title standard bearer and another alpha buddy key. Pretty cool. Pretty straightforward stuff, but that's good. Not too flashy. But fair, I think. That's pretty I think that's pretty cool. Be curious to see. Hopefully that leads to some new pledges for them. Yeah, Ryo says similar to titles, you have to choose which title you want to use at the time. Yeah, that's a good example. Yeah, Jace, I was thinking about that. Like, only 10 is interesting. Guess this isn't intended for streamers. Yeah, I don't think. I was thinking about that as I was reading it. Obviously, as a broadcaster, it's pretty clear that this is not intended. This isn't like a creator code thing. You know what I mean? it's not intended for broadcasters, but I think that's totally okay. Because again, that could get, where do you draw the line? It's got to be somewhere. Like it would get kind of out of hand if like at this scale of rewards for like referring like 100 or 200 different referrals. Plus just the fact that the way you refer somebody is with their email address, that seems a little bit more personal. Like I guess streamers could just put their like email address out there and say like, if you found out about Pantheon because one of my videos, put BazgrimTV@gmail.com in the referral slot. I guess that kind of accomplishes the same thing, but it doesn't it doesn't have quite the same feel as like a lot of like other games that again like have the creator codes where it's like use code Bazgrim or something. That's a lot easier. It's a lot easier to fit into a video or something, but that's okay because maybe they'll do something like that in the future. I wouldn't be surprised. But this, I think, is a good start. Again, it's just the word of mouth, the friends talking to friends about Pantheon. Just give them your email address and earn some rewards. I think that's pretty cool. I think it's a cool idea. Again, I'm surprised that they just kind of I'm pleasantly surprised that they just dropped that on us. It's pretty cool. So we will see, because we are definitely nearing the point where there's going to be some more eyes on Pantheon as these big pieces start coming into place and alpha gets closer and closer. There's going to be more people talking about the game, more people getting interested in it and pledging. So hopefully this facilitates that, because I've talked about this before, and I won't dwell on it too long, but it is very important that they have things like this to facilitate community growth when alpha hits, because as we've talked about before, it's going to be very important that at some point Pantheon can partner with a publisher, a like-minded publisher. That's important. Either a like-minded publisher or an investor that can really inject massive cash into the game to speed it along. And because as good as pledges like this are, and rewards for pledges, that does make a difference. But as far as really noticeably speeding up development, it's going to take a publisher or a large investor. But they're not mutually exclusive. Like they're very related. So again, in alpha, if it goes well, which it looks like, it's headed in that direction. But if Pantheon's alpha performs well and gains a lot of attention, that's gonna attract the attention of the publishers and the investors, because of course they're looking to invest to turn a profit. They want to invest in something that is promising and looks like it will be successful in the long run. And the best way to get them thinking along those lines is having a community that is excited and engaged and sizable. And so I think all that to say, all these things are kind of pointing towards an effort that VR is making to really capitalize on that in alpha. People have been waiting for literal years. There's a lot of anticipation around it, and there's no doubt that when the time does come, when those floodgates do finally open, they're going to want to capitalize on that as much as possible. That's why they're going through such lengths to make sure that the game runs well, looks good, plays good. Because if people enjoy it, again, we've seen this happen with countless other games. If a game is good, people talk about it, and word spreads like crazy on social media, everywhere. And so if Pantheon can get, I'm not saying it's going to generate the same amount of buzz as New World or anything like that, but once you start making waves, that's going to get the publishers' minds thinking, you know what I mean? And that's what they need. So I think this is a good step in that direction. Anyway, I want to go back to the stream that we saw tonight, which, again, I'm glad that they mentioned it at the end, because I forgot to mention it at the beginning, that this is just part 1 of a series on HDRP. And so I kind of misspoke a little bit at the beginning, because I didn't really understand what the order was going to go. This stream was very clearly, as I said, about like the tools. There's a lot of tech. There's kind of some more complex stuff that probably went over a lot of our heads. But hopefully you can see that the take-home lesson is the speed in which they can use these tools to create the zones, which obviously is really important when you have an entire world to build. And so, that's important, but as far as the actual like beautification of it, and like, I was talking about the lighting, and they mentioned like the time of day system, which is particularly exciting. That will all be coming in the next part, which I don't necessarily think is next month. It might be, but not necessarily. But we'll look forward to that. Hopefully that that will really open our eyes to the new level of beauty that they are able to bring. But this stream about the tools that they have, interesting in a lot of ways, particularly the fact that this Gaia program has essentially replaced Houdini. Now, I'll have to go back and rewatch the beginning of the stream when he was really talking about that, because I actually missed some parts. But what I was able to get from it, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but this Gaia program is replacing Houdini because it does much of the same things, and according to them, it does a lot of things better, which is good. But that's very surprising to me, because they were touting Houdini for a long time as kind of this, savior program in a way, that it was gonna just significantly increase their development pace, and it seemingly did. But then Gaia comes along again, seemingly out of the blue. Like, at least it seems like they were able to implement it quickly, but like I can't help but wonder then, like, what happened to all the work that was done on the Houdini pipeline. Now, again, understanding that development is a iterative process, and sometimes you make decisions that don't end up being the right decisions, and you have to go back. Like, that's fine, but I'm just curious, like, as to why, because I know Jimmy Lane, their environment artist, left the team in August. If you weren't aware, sorry to break that news, but it's true. It's sad, because Jimmy was a good personality to have on stream, and he was the one that was kind of pioneering that Houdini pipeline. And so when he left, and they hired Tim Schuler, who appears to be a very talented environment artist as well. Is it the sort of thing where like Tim just is much better with Gaia than Houdini, and so then they had to kind of shift over to Gaia again. I mean, and that was in August. I mean, that was less than 2 months ago. So if they really were able to fully shift over that and implement it, like, that's not too bad of a time frame. And they have been making all this progress on these zones. Like, it's definitely progress. I'm not saying it's not progress. It's just interesting. It's just interesting. Like, is Gaia really going to be that much faster than Houdini? Like, what, like, you know, I can't help but wonder, like, you know, how much progress would they have been able to make in that time if they had still used Houdini? I guess all I'm saying is that I would be interested to hear a little bit more of an explanation on that. And I'll rewatch the video and think about it a little bit more. But those are just some random, you know, initial thoughts that I had about that. They said in chat Houdini was overkill when they really got into it. I wonder what they mean by that. But a positive note, though, that that I got out of this stream, that it really kind of, again, one of those things that they've talked about in the past, but it really kind of hit home in this stream, is the importance of being able to run any place that you can see, and how this new tech, the streaming, the world streaming tech, how that enables that to happen. By having a seamless world. Now I'm gonna pull up the top-down map of King's Reach to kind of show what I'm talking about here. So this is King's Reach. This is from a few months ago, but this is the actual terrain of the continent of King's Reach. This is just one of 3 planned continents for launch. What they were focusing on today, what we saw today, was this Throne Fast and Avendir's Pass area. Now, when we're looking from the top down on King's Reach, one thing that a lot of people pointed out when this map came out was how sectioned off the zones look, and how it almost kind of looks unnatural. Now, you know, there's a certain lore explanation for why things could look like this, because Terminus is made up of lots of other different planets that have collided together. You know, so just as an example, I don't know, but like, you know, this could be a fragment of one planet that has just collided with this area, which is a fragment of another planet, and you know, that's why, you know, there's these mountains that are in between them, stuff like that. You know, the topography of Terminus is not necessarily always going to be what you would expect to see in the real world. I guess that's the point. So it's interesting though that they have these mountains, and I know these dotted lines were, you know, the original like planned zone lines, but now, and I guess that still is the zone border technically, but what's interesting though is that all these mountains in between aren't just dead space. You know what I mean? With Pantheon's climbing system, if you want to climb the mountains, you can climb the mountains. You can go over, you know, you can climb, you know, from the Silent Plains up to the Rones, you know, just go right over these mountains if your climbing skill is high enough. Now, I would also hope that there's little pockets of content up in the mountains. I think it would be cool. If there's some NPCs, there's probably some Yetis up there or something that live up in the mountains that will attack you, or maybe there's some like wise old sage that lives on the top of a mountain that you could talk to. Things like that I think would make it interesting, but I'm just kind of imagining. But there's some really interesting implications there with having a seamless world. I really don't mind. I really don't mind zone lines, actually, just because I'm so used to it. I've always played MMOs that are zoned, and especially now, load times are typically so short with solid state drives that like I just almost don't even notice them. So when they talked about having like a seamless world, I was like, yeah, like okay, it could be cool, but I also didn't really care. Until I started thinking about the feeling of literally being able to go anywhere and take any path to go anywhere with the climbing system. I think it really is, that is really interesting, and that really is a whole dimension of exploration that I don't think I've really seen in an MMO, which would be really cool if they can pull that off. That'd be cool. What do you guys think? What do you think about having a seamless world? Oh, the other thing though, like, and I know Jabba talked about it a little bit. And again, this is something that I would be really curious to hear a more in-depth explanation on, is how that relates to NPC leashing and chasing, because I think we can all agree that in order to have a dangerous world, a world that is filled with risk and suspense, you have to have mobs that chase you for a long time. And typically the nice clean solution to that would be a mob will chase you pretty much anywhere within the zone that you're in. And it's the classic train to zone. And if you're in trouble, you just got to run to that zone line. You know exactly where that zone line is, and that's exciting. I'm not gonna lie, like that's a heart-pounding moment where you know exactly where that zone line is, and you got low health and you're being chased, and you just got to hit that zone line, and the sense of relief that you feel as soon as you see the load screen pop up, like that's load screens might not always be super fun because you're just kind of like, oh, I just gotta wait. But when you're being chased down by 20 things and you see that load screen pop up, that is the best feeling ever. When you're at 1% health, that's a good feeling. And so taking those away does have some interesting implications for that, assuming they still want to have mobs chase you for long distances so that you're not reckless, because I've played games like that and I hate it, to be honest. Those games never keep my attention for long because it doesn't matter how many mobs there are. I know that if I just keep on running, my run speed is faster than theirs. If I just keep running, I'll hit a point where they will just rubber band and they will just go back, dutifully to their little spawn point, and it's completely unrealistic, and I don't feel any sense of consequence for my actions. I can just run through the world without any fear, because I know that the mobs will just give up fairly quickly, and that's not good. And that's the developers of Pantheon have said that they want the world to have that sense of danger. So literally, where do you draw the line? Now again, I know Joppa said that they will have zone lines, but like, where will they just be kind of like invisible zone lines? So again, like, let's say you're just running through Avendir's Pass here through this, let's say you're just going to go through the valley, and as soon as you hit that dotted line, if there's something chasing you, even if it was something you picked up nearby, like as soon as you hit that line, are they always just going to just stop and be like, nah, he got away, and then just turn around? Like, it's still, I think it can be done well. It can be done well. But it also can be done in a way that is not very convincing. You know what I mean? This is something I like to think about a lot. Like, I don't remember if I've talked about it on stream before, but like one of the things that I like theory crafting, I don't theory craft a lot actually, but one thing I like theory crafting are NPC chase conditions, and I would like for it to depend on the type of NPC. I think I have talked about this before, but I'm going to talk about it again because I like talking about it. So, example, again, this is just me. This is my thoughts, my hopes, my dreams. Example, semi-brainless NPCs, or, you know, even bloodthirsty NPCs. That's a disposition, and maybe this could be part of that disposition, but like, you know, a bloodthirsty like zombie or anything like that it's not really does not have much cognitive ability. They will just chase you for pretty much forever because they just want to see you dead, and that is all that they care about, and they will just chase you. Now again, will they literally chase you across the continent? That gets kind of ridiculous. That can cause a lot of problems too. You know, get people chasing. You get people who will grab these super high level mobs and just pull them into ridiculous faraway places and just wreak havoc. So again, there has to be some limit, but you know, bloodthirsty mobs that have really long chase distances. You have NPCs that are maybe just assigned to guard a certain area, maybe like the Orcs of Hangor or something. If they're chasing you, they'll chase you out of Hangor, but once you reach their gates there in Avendir's Pass, they'll let you go because that's all they really care about. They just want to protect their territory. And as long as you're out of that, they'll let you go. Whoops. Conversely, you might also have some mobs that will chase you anywhere within a zone except for certain areas that maybe they're afraid of. Maybe there are some NPCs that are afraid of the Orcs of Hangor, so they will chase you, but maybe you actually want to duck inside Hangor to get away from them or something. Or maybe there's I always like to think of the example like Fangorn Forest in Lord of the Rings, with the hobbits. You know that scene? I think it was in the Two Towers where the Uruk-hai have captured Merry and Pippin and they're taking them to Isengard, and but the hobbits break free and they flee, and they flee into Fangorn Forest, and the orcs don't chase them because the orcs themselves are afraid of Fangorn Forest, and they figure there's no way that they're going to survive in there anyway. It's too dangerous. They're going to die. It's not worth chasing them in there, except for that one very bloodthirsty maniacal orc who did chase them in there. So again, like that sort of thing is really interesting. It's really interesting to me. So I would like to see some dynamics and some conditional AI. You know, they've talked about that a couple months ago about the different levels of AI that they can assign to different types of creatures. So I wouldn't be at all surprised if they're already thinking along those lines when it comes to chase range. But it's fun to think about. So I would be curious to hear them talk about that a little bit more, and particularly how it will work in a seamless world. Ziploc says you can have guard patrol routes that you can run too. That is true, creating safe space that way. That's a good point. It's a good point. Guards that are on the road. Yeah, like it would be fun to have certain places like and that rewards player knowledge as well, which I think is important. And the more you play the game, the more things you just learn that are really valuable. You know, it's just the player up here. It's not just about the character and what level you are. It's about what you actually know. So if you've been playing the game long enough and you know that there are certain areas in this zone that are kind of safe spots that you won't get chased to, or maybe again, even getting more granular, maybe there are areas again that only certain NPCs won't chase you into there. So maybe if you're getting chased by orcs, you know of a place nearby that those specific orcs won't chase you to, and you can find refuge that way. Super, super interesting. Yeah, that's good. That's good stuff if you can pull it off. Anyway, it is getting late. I've got to get up pretty early tomorrow, so I think I'm going to call it there, but I hope you enjoyed this stream as much as I did. This was a good one, and very much looking forward to the next part. So I will see you there, if not before. But again, keep an eye out on the Library Pantheon. That's all I can say right now. It does have its own Twitter account, at Pantheon Library on Twitter. If you're on Twitter, you want to follow that's where I've been posting like the progress updates, and so you can expect to see a lot more on that coming soon. But again, I'm going to be pretty much shouting it from the rooftops on all my channels when the time does come. So don't miss it. Very exciting. It's not a wiki. It's a lot more powerful than just a wiki, and you'll be seeing that before too long. So thank you to everybody who tuned in tonight. I hope you have yourself a good rest of your evening or afternoon or even morning, depending on wherever you are in the world. Have a good one. I will talk to you all soon. Thank you.